What comes to your mind when you think of Thanksgiving? Turkey, family gatherings, or perhaps the story of the Pilgrims and the Native Americans sharing a meal? This is the common perception of Thanksgiving, a holiday painted in hues of unity and gratitude. We've all heard the tales, haven't we? The way the Pilgrims, escaping religious persecution, landed on Plymouth Rock, how they were greeted by the Native Americans who taught them to cultivate the land. The story culminates in a grand feast, a shared meal symbolizing cooperation and mutual respect. This narrative has been woven into the fabric of our society, creating an image of Thanksgiving as a celebration of harmony between two distinctly different cultures. It's a heartwarming tale, one that many of us look forward to reliving year after year. But what if the story you've been told isn't the whole truth? The Pilgrims, as we know, landed at Plymouth Rock in 1620. An enduring symbol of American lore, these English settlers seeking religious freedom embarked on a perilous journey across the Atlantic. The Mayflower, their vessel, carried a little over 100 passengers to the New World, a place unknown to them, filled with both opportunity and danger. Upon arrival, the Pilgrims found a land that was harsh and unforgiving. The first winter was brutally cold, and their provisions ran dangerously low. Not prepared for the severity of the New England winter, half of these brave souls perished due to exposure, disease, and starvation. Yet, in the midst of this bleak situation, the Pilgrims found unexpected allies. The Native Americans, notably the Wampanoag tribe, came forward to help. The Indigenous people taught the Pilgrims how to cultivate corn, extract sap from maple trees, catch fish, and avoid poisonous plants. This exchange of knowledge was crucial for the Pilgrims' survival. A man named Squanto, a member of the Pawtuxet tribe who had learned English prior to the Pilgrims' arrival, played a pivotal role in fostering this relationship. He acted as an interpreter, a guide, and a mediator between the Pilgrims and the Wampanoag people. His contribution to the Pilgrims' survival is a testament to the strength of human spirit and the power of unity. The following year, the Pilgrims reaped a bountiful harvest. Grateful for their survival and the success of their crops, they organized a feast. The Wampanoag were invited to partake in this celebration. This event, often cited as the first Thanksgiving, was a moment of peace and cooperation between the Pilgrims and the Native Americans. However, this seemingly peaceful beginning was not a sign of things to come. The story takes a turn when we delve into the less-known events that followed. While the common narrative paints a picture of peaceful coexistence and shared bounty, beneath this veneer lies a more uncomfortable reality. The arrival of the Pilgrims on Native American lands was not the beginning of a harmonious relationship, but rather the start of a series of conflicts and violent encounters. The newcomers, seeking to establish their own settlements, often clashed with the indigenous tribes. Land disputes were common, as were battles over resources. The Pilgrims, armed with advanced weaponry, often had the upper hand in these confrontations, leading to significant loss of life among the Native Americans. But the violence was not the only thing that the settlers brought with them. They also carried diseases to which the Native Americans had no immunity. Smallpox, measles, and influenza rampaged through the indigenous communities, decimating populations and causing unimaginable suffering. Yet perhaps most insidious of all were the deceitful tactics used by the settlers. Stories abound of the Pilgrims offering gifts that were laced with disease, a cruel strategy to weaken and control the indigenous tribes. One particularly disturbing account tells of blankets infested with smallpox being given to Native Americans, a devastating act of biological warfare. These dark chapters of history are often glossed over in the traditional Thanksgiving narrative. The focus is placed on the feast and the celebration, rather than the violence and deceit that followed. But to truly understand the legacy of Thanksgiving, we must confront these uncomfortable truths. We must remember that the Pilgrims were not just peaceful settlers seeking freedom in a new land. They were also invaders, bringing with them disease, conflict, and a disregard for the rights and lives of the indigenous population. In this light, the Feast of Thanksgiving takes on a different significance. It becomes not just a celebration of harvest and bounty, but also a reminder of the cost at which this bounty was secured. And so, a darker picture of Thanksgiving begins to emerge. One of the deadliest weapons the settlers brought with them was not a sword or a gun, but disease. The settlers, in their quest for new lands and riches, carried with them an invisible, lethal companion. Diseases like smallpox and syphilis, which were common in Europe, were alien to the Native American population. Having never been exposed to these diseases, the indigenous people had no immunity against them. The result was catastrophic, to say the least. Smallpox, a highly contagious disease, spread like wildfire amongst the Native American tribes. It wasn't just the sick who suffered. The disease left survivors scarred and often blinded. Entire tribes were wiped out, their cultures and histories disappearing with them. Then there was syphilis. Unlike smallpox, syphilis was not immediately lethal. It was a slow, painful killer, causing long-term health issues and often leading to insanity and death. The disease was particularly cruel because it could be passed on from mother to child, affecting generations. But here's where the story takes a darker turn. Some historians suggest that these diseases weren't just unintentional byproducts of exploration. There's a theory that the settlers knowingly gave the Native Americans items like blankets that were infected with smallpox. If true, this would be an early instance of biological warfare, a horrifying testament to the lengths some would go to claim a land that was not theirs. And so, the feast that we fondly remember as Thanksgiving was not just about sharing and gratitude. It was also a time of immense loss for the indigenous population. The diseases brought by the settlers disrupted their societies, decimated their numbers, and changed the course of their history. Thanksgiving, then, was not just a feast, but also a harbinger of death and destruction. Fast forward to today, and the story of Thanksgiving, we're told, is far removed from these grim realities. The narrative we've been fed for centuries paints a picture of unity and camaraderie, of a harmonious feast between the Pilgrims and the Native Americans. This version is comforting, it's palatable, but it's far from the truth. Over time, the history of Thanksgiving has been sanitized, smoothed over, and romanticized. It's been adorned with the trappings of a feel-good holiday where the focus is on family, food, and gratitude. The dark and brutal truth has been buried beneath layers of myth and misinformation. We're told about the Pilgrims' struggle for survival, their perseverance in the face of adversity. We're told about the help they received from the Native Americans, culminating in a celebratory feast. But what we're not told is the cost that the Native Americans paid for this encounter. The diseases, the displacement, the death. These are the aspects that have been conveniently left out of the story. And the effects of this historical erasure are not just confined to the past. They continue to impact Native American communities today. The romanticized narrative of Thanksgiving perpetuates harmful stereotypes, erodes cultural identity, and trivializes the historical trauma of these communities. It's a stark reminder of the systemic erasure and marginalization they have endured for centuries. The truth of Thanksgiving is more complex than what we've been led to believe. It's a story of survival, yes, but it's also a story of invasion, of exploitation, of a violent clash of cultures. It's a story that demands a reckoning with the past, a recognition of the injustices inflicted upon the Native Americans. The truth of Thanksgiving is a bitter pill to swallow, but it's an essential part of our history that we must not forget. It's high time we shed the sanitized narrative and confront the harsh reality. Only then can we truly begin to understand, acknowledge, and perhaps start to heal the wounds of the past. So, what can we learn from the real story of Thanksgiving? We've journeyed together through the complexities of history, unearthing the stark realities that often lurk beneath the surface of our cherished traditions. We've discovered that the story of Thanksgiving isn't solely about harmony and unity, but also involves a painful chapter of disease, deceit, and devastation. The arrival of the Pilgrims marked the beginning of a dramatic shift in the lives of the Native Americans, the repercussions of which are still felt today. We've seen how disease spread, decimating populations, and we've learned that the modern perception of Thanksgiving often glosses over these harsh truths. This exploration is a call to dig deeper, to learn more about Native American history and culture, to understand and respect their resilience and contributions. As we gather for Thanksgiving each year, let's remember the whole story, the good, the bad, and the ugly, because only by acknowledging our past can we hope to create a better future.